Welcome to Let's Talk About the Bible, episode 18. I'm Pastor Jamie, a youth pastor here at Spokane Baptist Church. I like to answer questions that the teens have asked throughout the week in our different services, so on a Wednesday night or on a Sunday morning. And this is another one of the questions that they've asked today. Are the dragons in history actually dinosaurs from the Ark? That's the question that we're trying to answer today. Great question. Great question. We had a previous answer about dinosaurs, if you want to go back and look at that. But this one specifically is a really great question because it ties a kind of world culture. And I would just like to say the same thing that when we talk about the flood, we can talk about dinosaurs the same way, because every culture has a story, every culture has like a myth or a legend about this flood-like catastrophe. Just like every culture, every country, every place in the world seems to be digging up dinosaur bones. So there seems to be this, it happened everywhere type situation. So the question being, are dragons actually dinosaurs from the Ark? That's a tough question to answer. But we know that dragons were part of mythology, were part of legend, were part of folklore of the world. And this word dinosaur only came about just in the last couple of 100 years or so. So really, like when we talk about dragons, we're really probably talking more about dinosaurs, because when the Bible talks about them, they don't say the word dinosaur. We know that the word dragon is throughout the Bible. It describes Lucifer, or Satan, as a dragon. But let's look at that a little bit more, because words are really important in how we describe things and such. So dinosaurs, we know there's a couple of different descriptions for dinosaurs in the Bible. And I've got my Bible open here to Job chapter 40 and 41, kind of that area, because it talks about a few of these different ones. We have the Leviathan, which is in Job 41:1, where it says, "Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down?" You get this idea that Leviathan, if you're trying to catch it with a hook, you go fishing, you get a hook on the end of your line and you catch fish with that. So it would be this sea creature of some form. We can also read about Leviathan in Psalm 104:26 as well. But this word Leviathan, it's mentioned 6 times throughout Scripture. And then you can turn to Job 40 to find out the answer about Behemoth. This huge plant-eating monster as well. We have these 2 different types of animals here, Leviathan and Behemoth. But there's one other word that is used. It's a Hebrew word in the Bible. It's tannin, Tanniyin. And it describes sea monsters, serpents, or dragons, or all of the above, like something like that. And we can read about that more in Psalm 74:13, where they talk about this monster, this serpent, this dragon. And that word, Tanniyin, is mentioned in the Old Testament. More than Leviathan, more than Behemoth. But I think it's more of a descriptive of all of them. That's my personal, the description of saying dinosaurs. You're not talking about velociraptors, you're not talking about T-Rex, your Stegosaurus, my favorite. But you're talking about the whole bunch of them, so that's kind of how I see that. But I might be wrong. I'd love for you guys to talk to me about that. The important part of this question here is, are the dragons in history actually dinosaurs from the Ark? Were dinosaurs on the Ark? That's something that we need to work out whether you believe or not. I think so. And I think some of them weren't, and some of them are left on the earth, but 2 of every kind of animal, right? When we think about the Ark, when we think about animals going onto the Ark and what Noah was called to do, we can see there's strict instructions here. Pairs of clean animals, a male and a female, and that they were going to go up and reproduce to the whole world through those things. And I think that's the whole part. When you look at Genesis 6, you need to look at what's actually listed there. It doesn't go through a list of every single animal. That the Bible would be so much longer if they did that, right? But what it does say is of every animal, a male and a female. And I think that's the thing we need to think about here, is not just were dinosaurs dragons or anything like that. Were they on the Ark? And I think they were. That's my personal belief. You might think something different. That's the beauty of trying to unpack these things a little bit more. But I want to jump back a little bit more to what I previously said about different cultures having a story or a myth or a legend about dragons or dinosaurs, just as they do about the flood. The flood happened. Whether you believe it was as extreme as it says in the Bible, whether you believe it was done by God's hand, there was a flood. There was a giant flood. Countries all over the world tell you that this flood happened, and it's recorded in history throughout the whole world. And the beautiful thing that tells me is no one can speak everyone's language. No one can go over and say, I must convince you that this happened thousands of years ago. No one did that. Yet it's recorded that way. For me, it's confirmation of what God has done and the promises that he's made and fulfilling promises, right? But I'm from England. And in England, there's a great myth, a legend, St. George and the dragon. And that's one that we learn growing up. We learn that St. George kills a dragon with his lance, and he saves the life of a princess who's next in line to be sacrificed to keep the city safe from this dragon. So instead he just goes and kills the dragon. This is legend that everyone knows about, St. George, what a hero. He killed the dragon, saved the princess, won the day, saved the city. So it's another thing about dragons. And we know, the year of the dragon in China, the Chinese dragon, there's dragons all over the world that are being talked about. I want you to think about one other thing as well. The country of Wales, their flag has a dragon on it. Has a big red dragon on it. And it's so funny to me because it's obvious that it's a dragon. Big twisty tail, wings on the back, red. And you go, why is that there? It's another part of history. Everyone has a myth, a legend, a story about these things. My understanding of it is all of this is back in the garden when all the animals were created, when God made them all and gave Adam the opportunity to name them all, gave them the authority to name them all. Dinosaurs and Adam and Eve and humans coexisted. And after sin came into the world, that's when the bloodlust, the eating of meat, the carnivore came about because of sin. You know that dinosaurs aren't the way that they're portrayed in the Jurassic Park movies and such. But the thing that hasn't been imagined up is the fact that in every single country all over the world, they're digging up these bones. That they're finding these fossils, that they're finding proof of these big giant animals that lived all over the world. And what that tells me is God is a very creative God. He creates with joy and builds together these huge monsters that we call dinosaurs. But before they were just good, along with the lion, along with the leopard, along with all those other meat eaters now, they weren't meat eaters before until sin. But just because there's questions and legends about these things doesn't mean they exist. Actually, we need to take it into account that there might be something. So like I said with the flood, to me, I take that as confirmation of God's glory and his goodness and his promises coming true. Just the same as him saving Noah and his family and two of every single animal to repopulate the world. I believe he did it. I believe he did it in a way that we never truly understand, in a boat that we could never truly understand unless we look at one and go, wow, only God could think of that. Dinosaurs, dragons, I love talking about them, giants, the flood, all those things. It all comes down to as well, though, of what are you accepting as truth? The one thing I can tell you is God did flood the earth. That's why we're finding bones of animals that should not be on top of Mount Everest that are there on top of these tall mountains. God did that. And there's proof of that from the Bible itself, obviously. We take this as truth. But there's also proof that every single country in the world talks of this flood happening. Those around, were they a thing? Yeah, I believe so. I think they were called something different. Behemoth, Leviathan, Tanaian, anything like that. Were they around? Yes, I believe so. Are they as old as everyone tells you? I don't think so. But that could be a different day. These are tough questions to answer. But when we can take the truth that's right in front of us, that tells us, I'm going to flood the world to wipe out the evil, but I'll never do it again. We can know that he did it. There's proof that he did it. And we know that he will not do it again. Praise God for that. But then also, if you accept that and you choose that and you take that as truth, then you have to take truth that there is a Leviathan, there's a Behemoth, there's a Tanaian, that we may not understand truly. Those dinosaurs from the ark, when they went back out, have affected the whole world. Just like all the other animals have affected the whole world. What do you believe? What do you believe about dinosaurs? What do you believe about the flood? What do you believe about dragons? And why? There's still dragons that live today. The Komodo dragon. Notice it hasn't got wings. It's a big reptile, serpent, big mouth, sharp teeth. Crocodiles. What we might see as a dinosaur. But back then they called it a different thing. So words change. Names change. Cultures say different stories about certain things. But the truth is what's written in the Bible. I believe that dinosaurs were on the earth. I believe that some were saved on the ark. The others were flooded, as the other animals were too. I believe that when the ark was opened up, those animals went back out and repopulated the earth. I believe God's promises came true, that he fulfilled them all. What do you believe? This has been a fun one. Guys, thank you for the question. Dragons from history, actually dinosaurs from the Ark. Killer question. I hope I've kind of given you some thoughts. Don't know if I've answered it. I think I've probably given you more questions than answering. But if you want to email your questions in, pastorjamie@spokanebaptist.com. If you want to watch any of our other Bible studies, Let's Talk About the Bible podcast, anything like that, go to our YouTube page, Spokane Baptist Church Youth. Check us out. And of course, if you're in the Spokane, Washington area, swing by, say hi. I'd love to meet you. Hope you're having a great day. God bless.